Hi, everybody. I'm filming this on Easter Sunday, but it's quite ironic given that what we're experiencing is literally the beginning of the event, the Ascension event that many have been anticipating all over the globe. And yesterday we had a massive plasma emission from the sun. And I've been directed this year to do a study of the connection between the plasma that is what our sun and the stars are comprised of, i.e., we are too, and blood plasma and how that changes in perimenopause. This is, perimenopause is a time of great alchemy, of metaphysical change. The word peri comes from the Persian mythology, meaning supernatural. And the push to get women onto synthetic hormones circumvents that natural evolutionary process. But the reason for this video is to just share a message that I got. And science was, or astronomers were predicting we'd see the zenith of that July this year, 2025. They've now adjusted that to say that they think the solar activity is declining. I disagree. I think that they're making that assumption because it's been so active that they expect that it's had its peak early. But I think the opposite is true. I think it's just getting started. And I feel that we are going to get this event in 2025. I did a video about the solar maximus, I think it was late last year. You can see it on my YouTube. But I want to speak to the lunar nodes, and I did a separate video about this in January, because what's happening at the moment is we're being put through a massive dark night of the soul, a massive death, an initiation where whatever it is that we have clung to, whatever has defined our identity or given us a sense of security, is now dissolving. So Pisces is the final sign in the zodiac wheel, and the lunar node, the north node, so our, where we're headed on our collective compass point, moved into Pisces on January 12 for 18 months. So it's in this 18-month period that we're going to see the dissolution of life as we knew it. And we're seeing that with, all of the unrest and destabilization that's happening on the world stage. But like the two fishes swimming in opposite directions that make up the symbol of Pisces, we're seeing a time of intensification of duality, of polarization, which is causing conflict. And this is the end game of life being in the solar plexus. I'll just take you down here. There we go, solar plexus. So this is the energy center which sits here. Oh, hang on. There we go. Boom, 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 boom. There it is. There it is. I'm pointing to the wrong one. Trying to do it. There we go. That's solar plexus. So between the belly and the heart. And solar plexus governs the mind, the rational mind. So the end game of the Piscean age is the solar plexus becoming so extreme in duality, in polarization, that we get to a climactic point of conflict. And we are heading there, okay? And as an intervention, a divine intervention at that point, we get this tidal wave of galactic light. What is it? It's plasma, which is the force, right? It's the divine. It's the energy of pure high octane light and love, i.e. the God force. So the reason that there's a couple of reasons that I'm saying we're already in the event. One is that we're seeing the aurora borealis, so the northern lights, and the australis borealis, the southern lights, are being seen further and further away from the magnetic poles. And this is a prophesied sign before the pole shift, the geomagnetic reversal, which is not necessarily a 180-degree flip of the magnetic poles. In fact, I can't remember his name, but there was a UK cartographer that studied the last 7 pole shifts, and every time the equator ends up in a different position, and he was predicting the equator would, the new equator for the new Earth would go right through New Zealand. There are others that also predict that Zealandia, the ancient land that New Zealand once was, will rise from the ocean. You used to be able to walk between New Zealand and Australia. And with that will be the return of, Mu or Lemurian consciousness. So, when the lunar node shifted into Pisces this year, I attended a dance event, silent disco, here in Morocco on the beach under the stars. And I was in such an expanded state of consciousness through joy, through dancing, through ecstasy, through devotional love, that I got very clearly that this is how we will ascend, that it's through allowing ourselves to experience more and more joy. And that, I'm getting a hot flush as I'm thinking about it. So the children of the sun, as we are known, are those of us that are here at this time for the shift from the earth in 3D dimensional reality, i.e. governed by the lower 3 chakras, viewing reality as rational, emotional, and physical. So that's solar plexus, sacral, root chakra. We are shifting out of that consciousness. The solar flare will bring about a quantum shift of consciousness in an instant for the collective, from 3D, from being rationally dominant, to 4th dimensional consciousness, putting us into the heart. Now, the heart, Heart Math Institute have shown that there's more neurons in the heart than there is in the brain. We also have neurons in the gut. So, and there's a connection now between gut health and depression. Those that are drowning in emotion, it's often because their gut health is compromised. So they can't have emotional balance when there's so much toxicity in the flora of their gut. But the heart, this is where we have the inner parents, okay? The archetypes of the inner mother and the inner father, or the inner king and the inner queen. And I've got a video masterclass on the living in the heart, it's called, and it's about how the secret to happiness is awakening these inner parents, so that on a day-to-day basis you are centered in the central energy center of your 7 major energy centers, which is the heart. And that means that we bring online the inner parents who are responsible for the lower 3 energy centers, which is the base chakra, the inner wild child, the 0 to 7-year-old, the emotional center, which is the 7 to 14-year-old, and the 14 to 21-year-old solar plexus, the one who is desperate to get approval and validation that they're doing a good job, that they're, lovable and beautiful and they're enough. And so the heart, we're all initiated through the heart from the age of 21 to 28, which is why in the mystic tradition of the Grail, which is what was appropriated to create Christianity, people were initiated into the Grail at the age of 21, because this is when the heart is being activated. So just as the Aquarian age shows Ganymede, the cup bearer, it shows the Grail, it shows the wisdom of the feminine returning. And so this time of ascension is when we're going to see the rise of the mystics returning. So you might remember the film The Dark Crystal, that showed at the very end the Skeksis, who are like the dark lords of patriarchy, and the mystics merge and become one. And this is awakening. Yeah. This woke culture that we have is a distortion of being awake. Woke is when we're righteous, when we're very polarized, when we're very rationally dominant, and we see everything as good and bad and black and white and right and wrong, and we're taking life very, very seriously. We're getting offended easily. There's superiority and inferiority. So we're judging everything and everyone around us in order to bolster our ego and feel superior by seeing others as inferior. But this is, not a recipe for happiness, but also, when we're stuck in the solar plexus, we're miserable. We're at risk of suicide. And what we're seeing right now, there's a lot of people that are at this place. They're not understanding the mystery of life, because you cannot understand it with the rational brain. Okay. You cannot find God in a book. It must be through initiation. This is what mysticism is all about. Mysticism predated religion. Religion is, giving people a set of beliefs, a doctrine, and telling people that they're bad if they don't, blindly follow the doctrine like a good sheep. But we must emancipate beyond being told what to do by an external authority and come back to the conscience, the wisdom of the heart. We will never find God through believing, through blind faith. The only way to experience the divine is through a direct experience, through feeling. So this is where we experience empathy, an awakening of feeling other people, so we can come into compassion for ourselves and each other. And this is the flowering of the heart. This is what's taking place in this ascension time. So, it's very symbolic that we're seeing the northern and the southern lights closer and closer to the center, to the heart, because it's the awakening of the rainbow body, the world soul, the anima mundi. And this means that more and more of us are soul dominant now, that we've crossed that divide from being ego dominant in service to self to being soul dominant in service to the greater good. And the more people that make that leap, it's like, the 100th monkey, then in a quantum shift, we all make that leap. So everything that's being escalated on the world stage right now is like the grain of sand that makes the pearl. It's the irritant, it's the catalyst for people to go, is this who we really are as a species? Squabbling about politics and about national identity, is this who we are? And enough people saying, no, I'm not black, I'm not white, I'm not this nationality, I'm not male, I'm not female, I'm a soul. That's the only true identity that we have. And the soul is the rainbow body. The rainbow as a concept has been hijacked and distorted to push an agenda of depravity that does not serve our LGB brother and sisters. Okay, but the rainbow is the rainbow bridge between the three worlds. And the way that we travel the rainbow bridge is activating the chakras. This is the rainbow bridge within us. So we're all here to be able to traverse the three worlds, which is the underworld, where we have all of our stored subconscious beliefs, our trauma, the group mind, so the mythos that has conditioned us. And in patriarchy, our myths were hijacked and distorted so that we enacted self-limiting, self-negating stories. So this time of ascension is us getting ourselves out of the underworld into the everyday world, which is the heart. Okay, now the heart, if we think about the everyday world, I spoke about the archetypes of mother, father, the parents that reside in the heart. This is where we learn through karma, cause and effect, the universal law of cause and effect. When I do this, this happens. This is how we learn to make wise choices. And this is what the Grail taught, wisdom parables that helped us to make wise choices and take back our power on the understanding that everything we're experiencing is the outcome of our choices, of our thoughts, our words, and our deeds. So at the moment, in the quickening, karma is being sped up like a centrifugal force, just as the Kundalini, the bioelectricity of the earth, is being activated with the influx of more and more solar flares and geomagnetic storms and plasma. So this is definitely a time when you need to get in the sun once a day. Now, I know we've been taught to fear the sun, and the sun is a part of our ascension process. So every time we receive plasma, a coronal flare, like we had a big plasma ejection yesterday, it activates our light body. And so this helps us to become more crystalline, like the Christos, okay? This is what the Christed one is, the anointed one is, someone who has done the work of transmuting their shadow into the light of understanding. What is the shadow? Our unconscious thoughts, words, and actions. So this is a time when, especially with the lunar nodes in the sign of Pisces, the mystic right now, we need to be doing that alchemical work. For those of you in your 40s and 50s, this is intensified during midlife, especially for the women during perimenopause. This is a time of metamorphosis. Now, going through that during the global quantum metamorphosis is off tap. So this is why a lot of women are really struggling with perimenopause symptoms, because of the amount of electromagnetic pollution, the amount of electricity that is frying us, the Wi-Fi microwave technology. So the more you can unplug your devices, unplug your modem to sleep, the better. But sun eating, sun gazing, the yogic practice, the first 10 minutes of dawn, the last 10 minutes of sunset. Do not look directly at the sun outside of those times. It is dangerous for your retina and you will do damage. But to harness the plasma that's coming in to feed your light body, the mana. Yeah, we are the ark. Whether it was Noah or the Ark of the Covenant that Moses was told to build, it wasn't a ship, it wasn't a box, it wasn't, it's our light body. That's what the ark is. And it wasn't that animals went 2 by 2 into the ark. We were referred to as animals. Okay, a human being that is not awake behaves like an animal. They're operating eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth level of retribution, vengefulness, because they're not taking responsibility for their own karma. So this is about, bringing all aspects of ourselves into the ark, preparing the light body. It was known as the Merkaba, the chariot in the tarot. So we're now really needing to honor our light body as much as possible. So try not to take toxins into your body, and do a daily practice if you can. You can change it up each day. You might do bioshaking one day, or sit and do candle gazing another day, or chanting another day, yoga or Tai Chi or Qigong. But if you can do it in the sunlight, that will have an even more profound effect on your light body. So, bless your fears. This is a time when our fears are really coming up during the lunar nodes transit through Pisces, but this is an opportunity for us to transmute the fear. So for those of you, again, in midlife that have your Chiron and Aries, it means the fears of your younger self, the 0 to 7-year-old, is really coming up right now, but it's an opportunity to shift that for ourselves and for the collective. So, blessings on your Sunday. This is why the sun, was Sunday is ruled by the sun, and it became a holy day. Every day is a holy day. But this is a time when the more we open our higher heart, which sits here between the heart chakra and the throat chakra, it's the color of turquoise. And this color denotes the inner alchemical marriage of sacred feminine and sacred masculine. So the more that we open up and emit the turquoise light of one who is the holy hermaphrodite, one who has balanced the feminine masculine energies, the more we attract to us our beloved, our divine complement. And when the beloveds come together, which will be happening during the event, we're going to see a quantum shift and ability for us to teleport, be telepathic, to be able to levitate, manifest at will. We won't be as dense, but in order to prepare for this event, we need to be not disciplined, but loving, show fierce love towards our bodies. Because the thing is, it's about embodiment. So coming up to this new moon in Taurus, this is an opportunity for us to love our bodies more fiercely than ever. And this is why it's a time for the sacred feminine to rise. The feminine is about fiercely loving our bodies. What we've journeyed in the last 2,000 years is internalized misogyny repackaged as Puritan religion. Okay, in other words, repressing the body, seeing the body as evil, seeing sex as profane. In perimenopause, there's this internalized misogyny by the medical establishment that sees women seeing their bodies as dysfunctional, trying to fix them with synthetic medicine. And it's not understanding, when we do yoga, we're bowing to the body. We're bowing to the physical being that can contain the pure plasma of the God force as we alchemize, as we transform. That they've hijacked the term meta for their virtual wet dream, the idea of everyone living in a fake universe that is the hypothesis of the rational, is the distortion. We are the metaverse. We are the new story. We are the transformation. We are the ones that we've been waiting for, as the Hopi prophesied. So, this is a time to get into your body through a devotional practice. That's how we prepare for the event. And what will the event look like? The event will be, and I'm referring to the work of Alison Coe, a hypnotherapist who has worked with a lot of people that have in their hypnotherapy sessions seen this event and all reported similar phenomena, which is a flash of light so strong it knocks people to the ground. And only those that have prepared their body will be able to withstand that. Those that have not done that preparation will not die. Okay, but you will be temporarily housed in massive ships, and these ships are already here. Okay, they're Pleiadian ships. My dear friend Mark, who's also a hypnotherapist and a very gifted intuitive healer, when all of the COVID stuff started to ramp up, he saw these massive ships, some of them bigger than countries, come in and surround the earth ready, knowing that, okay, we were heading into a time of the prophesied end times, which is not the end of the earth, but as REM sung, the end of the earth as we know it, the end of 3D earth, the end of limitation, the end of us being enslaved to an order that put a lid on human consciousness. So we are, when I was dancing on the beach after the lunar nodal axis shift this year, I saw on the inner planes this stairway of light opening up, and the message was, it's time. So ascension is not about us being holier than thou or denying the body. Okay, this is about us loving the body more fiercely than ever. So be discerning about what you ingest. Yeah, but it's love of the self that is going to prepare the ark of the covenant that is our light body for this ascension event. So yeah, I do believe it's going to happen, if not in 2025, in 2026. But yeah, we're getting closer and closer. So bless the dis-ease that we are seeing. Yeah, it is the catalyst. The more that we can bow to the process and trust the chaos, chaos is the feminine principle, as Starhawk said, she changes everything she touches and she touches everything she changes. This is a time when we need to be listening to the mystics, to the wisdom of the feminine, because they are the midwives that assist people to navigate times and chaos of change. And that's because the feminine is put through chaos. We're initiated by our bodies in our fertile years 13 times a year. We journey the 13 moons, the descent of our ego as the blood spirals and the iron magnetizes to the earth, and it takes our consciousness deep into the roots of the tree of life, into the subconscious. It takes us down and it humbles our ego. Human. Hu means of the earth. The Druids used to tone Hu. So this is about us being humble. I don't believe it's the meek that will inherit the earth. I believe it is the humble that will inherit the earth, the people that are living close to the earth, which is why people like myself are choosing to live in cultures that are living simply, less tech, less AI, less surveillance, simpler, closer to the earth. And the more we can unplug, the more we can honor our sensitivity. Sensitivity is a sign of evolution. It is not a weakness. It is a sign, if you haven't heard of the telepathy tapes, so many of the young autistic people are very telepathic. And I believe that when this event happens, this massive solar flare event, that those who have struggled to be in the density of 3D, i.e. those that are diagnosed on the spectrum, a lot of the crystalline or crystal kids as they're known, who were non-verbal for a long time, if at all, found the density of 3D distortion of the force too much to take, and it distorted them. But once we are in this frequency of the fourth dimension and of more light coming in, the geomagnetic field, the ionosphere of the earth is thinning. So that's allowing us to take more of this plasma into our light bodies. But of course, if you see online, they talk about the dangerous radiation. The only danger is that it's going to take out the electricity, the grid, okay, that is the surveillance state. So it's actually our liberation. So we bless the sun. Yeah, we bless the plasma. You can see yourself taking it into your body, feeding your light body. And yeah, Have a wonderful day. Have a beautiful Sunday, a holy day, wherever you are on the planet. You have my blessing to share this video. And yeah, just keep following your intuition and know that your fears are coming up as your own day of reckoning. We're not being judged by anything or anyone outside of ourselves. This is about us coming to terms with how we judge ourselves and forgiving ourselves. Atonement at one end is about being at one with ourselves, healing through radical forgiveness. So have mercy for yourself, have mercy for the path that you've walked, and reframe yourself, your story, from the story of the wounded personality, the child. Reframe yourself, see yourself from the perspective of the infinite, immortal soul, and know that you are so much bigger than this lifetime, than this hero or heroine's journey. And I want to speak to that just for a moment. The heroine's journey is different to the hero's journey. Yeah, I know there are people that claim it's the same, it's a cyclic journey, but women do it differently. I disagree. The heroine's journey is a 7-step journey out of the underworld. Yeah, it's the descent and ascension of Inanna, known as Ishtar, Astarte, Esther, but she is the rainbow goddess. And this is her time. This is when the sacred feminine will be a guide to guide souls within the tree of life, out of the underworld, into the everyday world, and then up to the upper world. That is the journey that we're on. So we're all masculine and feminine. So this is a time of men and women listening to the wisdom of the mystic feminine for this ascension. So thanks so much for listening today, and blessings on your ascension. It's a very exciting time to be alive. Ciao for now.